In this channel I have treated many topics in the past: setup, driving tips, race start, league races, but one topic I haven't treated yet is wheel-to-wheel racing. And it's an important part of racing because it doesn't matter how much space you have. If you can't race safely around the other cars, you won't get very far. What I'll try to do here is two things: to give tips about decision making and to explain racing etiquette. In the parts where the execution is hard, like crisscrossing behind another driver on corner exit, the focus will be on the driving tips, while on the easy parts, like defending down straight, the focus will be on explaining the etiquette and behavior that is expected from you. Defending down the straights is going to be our first topic. I couldn't avoid starting here after the Mercedes incident in the Spanish Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago. So let's start with this part. What the most common etiquette says regarding defending down the straights is that you are allowed to make one defensive move. This is very often misunderstood, so the best way to start is explaining what a defensive move is exactly. Many people see a car changing direction and assume that's a defensive move, when it isn't always the case. So when they see a car turning right and then left down a straight, they think he defended twice. But actually, you can be making a defensive move just by driving on a straight line, not changing the direction of your car at all. At the same time, you might be not making a defensive move when you make a direction change. It might sound a bit confusing, so let's see it with examples. We'll go to the Nürburgring now and see some footage that explains this clearly. This is the classic situation where to cover the inside you need to make a direction change. As you can see, the McLaren ahead turns right to cover the inside into the first corner. This situation is typical from straights that have a right-hand corner before them and another right-hand corner just after it. As you can see, the car in front is always going to need to make a direction change to cover the inside. And this is the opposite situation. Now the McLaren ahead is going to make a defensive move just by driving on a straight line. As you can see, he's going to stay glued to the left line. There you have it. And that is just to protect the inside for the next chicane. That qualifies as a defensive move too. This is the classic situation for straights that have a right-hander right before it and a left-hander after it. Oscar's 11 main straight is another good example of this kind of defensive move. If you get a poor exit into the main straight, what you need to do to protect the inside is to drive on a straight line alongside the left edge of the track. Again, this counts as a defensive move even if you're just driving on a straight line. This chase cam replay should explain what I mean much better than the TV camera before. So, now we know what a defensive move is, we have to deal with another part that is often misunderstood. What the typical racing etiquette says is that you are allowed to make one defensive move and then you can move back towards the racing line. What that means is, once you make a defensive move, you are not forced to stay glued to the inside line all the way down to the next corner. You can go a bit again towards the outside to improve your entry line for the next corner. Many people think that this is a second defensive move, but it's not. Let's see it through examples again. This is the same Nürburgring footage we seen a while ago, and as you can see, the McLaren stays left, glued to the line, but he is not forced to stay there all the way into the corner. As you can see, he starts moving right. There you have it. And as long as he leaves a car's width for the Corvette there, it's perfectly okay to move back towards the racing line. Now let's see the classic situation where people think the car ahead is making two defensive moves. As you can see, the McLaren moves right to cover the inside, and he starts moving back to the left again to get a nice entry for the next corner. Let's stop here for a second. As you can see, there's more than enough room for the car on the outside to do his thing. As long as you don't squeeze him out of the track, it's perfectly okay to move back towards the racing line. This is not a second defensive move. What I'm going to do now is to show you a real-life example of this kind of driving. The AI in project cars doesn't always react in believable ways, so this should be much better.
final 3 turns, and then use your power boost, use your speed. You can carry the speed down the straight. You may not get past at the end of the straight, but you might put yourself in position into turn 2 to get the job done. Jeroen Blekemolen watch his head going one way, then the other way, both on power boost, coming down the straight.
Defence, that's right, but China's going for it, trying to take third place from the Netherlands. Will he go round the outside at turn 1? What a manoeuvre by Ho Bintang of China. That's the best move we've seen here.
Now let's see what you should never do when coming back towards the racing line after a defensive move. Pay attention to the McLaren ahead. He doesn't leave enough room for the Aston Martin, he has to brake on the grass, and if this wasn't an AI car with magic powers, he will never make this corner. Always make sure you leave enough room on the outside when you move back towards the racing line after a defensive move. Otherwise, you are being unfair and you might get a penalty. By now, we know how much we can move to defend our position. We can make one defensive move and we can move back towards the racing line as long as we leave the rival enough room. But we have more limitations, and these are about the timing of our moves. The target of a defensive move is to make sure we will be on the inside into the next corner, never to slow down the guy behind us down the straight. That's why all our defensive moves should be preemptive and never reactive. Make your move on time, make your intentions clear from the start, and you'll stay safe and avoid silly accidents and penalties. To stay within these limits, you should get used to avoid late defensive moves with a rival just about to get alongside you, and also get used to be decisive when you make a move. If you want the inside, go for it. Never stay hovering in the middle of the track, waiting to see what side the guy behind will choose. Now we'll see examples that show clearly what you need to avoid to stay safe. The first thing we'll see is how a too late defensive move usually looks like. First we'll see it from TV cam and without commentary. You can see that the Chevrolet has a perfect slipstream. The McLaren chooses not to go defensive, he stays on the racing line, and now the Corvette is about to make the move on the inside. The McLaren sees it and then moves on reaction to him. The Corvette has to hit the brakes on a straight line, and that was really unfair. In the end he can make the move anyway on corner exit, but that will be classed as an unfair defensive move. It was pretty hard recording a convincing example of this scenario with the AI, so what we are going to do now is to see a real-life example of a too late defensive move. Now let's see how it should be done. Have a look at the McLaren ahead. He moves across with plenty of time for the car behind to react. The car behind doesn't need to lift, doesn't need to brake on a straight line, and that's how it should be done. Now we'll see what I meant before when I said it is always a good idea to be decisive with your first defensive move. Let's go back to Road America, and the first time, as before, it will be from TV cam and with no commentary. Let's see it. Now we'll see it from the chase cam. You'll be able to see the McLaren moves with plenty of time, so that part is okay, but he leaves enough room on the inside for the Mercedes to try. And once he sees the Mercedes is about to go there, then he makes a second defensive move. We'll go through this piece of footage again. Let's rewind it for a second. So there we go. The first thing you should do is when you move across, reach the inside and make perfectly clear for the guy behind you are covering that side. But if you fail to do it and you arrive to this situation having done already one defensive move, then you should just yield the inside. Try to stay ahead into the next corner using the outside line and never make a second defensive move. That's quite dangerous. The guy behind might hit you, you might put him on the grass, and it's not going to make you popular. Again, it was quite hard recording something convincing with the AI, so we are going to see another real-life example. So that's it for this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll keep talking about wheel-to-wheel racing for the next handful of videos, but I can't promise anything about frequent uploads at the moment. I am finding it hard these days to find time to do this, but I'll do my best to keep it going. As always, thanks a lot for watching.